Here we go, back from Denver, Colorado, where Gordo weaseled his way in to the closest to the pin. Took me for a good 25 push-ups, but we're going to chop up some tiers in Major League Soccer right now, because after Leagues Cup and after the Miami-Cincinnati showdown of the heavyweights, I think it's become pretty clear where the talent is at the top of this league. We're also talking a little bit about, hey, who's the best coach in this league right now? There's flowers going around to Wilfred Nancy, but is there somebody flying under the radar? I happen to think so. I don't know if the guys will agree with me, but we're going to check it out. Jump in. Major League. Dude, it makes me laugh every time. Journeymen!
It makes us laugh too, because it's
I'm so happy. Dan Gargan joining you guys here on a lovely Tuesday with my good friends Dax McCarty and Alan Gordon. And I wanted to get an immediate reaction from you, Gordo. If Jason and Travis Kelce are worth $100 million for 3 years on a podcast, what if you were an Amazon executive would you sign us to right now?
At least two apiece.
$2 million apiece?
$6 million. That's a bargain and a half. Even for the toy that breaks, I'm paying $6 over 100.
Over 100.
Yeah.
So you're paying for possibility.
Yes. Talent. I mean, we are the young.
And for raw talent here.
Hey, listen, this is crazy because we are actually back to being the young kids with potential. We got potential. We've done nothing, but we could be good. So
we haven't proved anything. We haven't proved anything, but everybody likes our ceiling.
We got to get game reps. I think that's what it is. We got to get some game reps on a national scale.
You got to put us in, and you got to sign us to a big contract
to
do so. You know, like, you're paying for potential at this point, and we can either prove you right or prove you wrong, and sell us for what you will down the road. But you know, this could be big.
We're one of those. Listen, we're one of those rare mixtures where we don't have a floor and we don't have a ceiling. We don't know what we don't have.
We're just in the abyss.
Yeah, we are.
No, I was kind of pumped because finally we've been waiting for the Kelces to set the market, and they finally set the market. So
like this wide receiver market right now.
The $100 million for 3 years that we were hoping for, but I think just a tier right below it.
$2 a year each, $2 million a year each, and you got us.
And you got us.
Yours.
We will literally do anything.
Yeah, send us some equipment. And we'd be, dude, that's
let's send Gordo a camera.
Send me a camera and a studio. I'll set it up. Actually, I'll use my own money. I'll use my own $2 million.
Just reimburse me.
Yeah. I mean, that's gonna make us 100% better right there.
Dax, what's the floor
would you
now?
Leave the mortgage business for $2 million.
I already left.
Gordo hasn't been in the mortgage business this entire time. He's just it's just a front.
What's up, Gargs?
No, Dax, I want to know, are you using this number in your negotiations now that you're going to be a newly retired man in December?
Now that I'm a free agent.
You're a free agent.
Listen, I've got all the confidence in the world in these three goons right here, but I'm thinking anything in the millions might be shooting a little high for us right now. So,
good call.
I'm going to come down to earth a little bit.
You know, this is recorded, right? Like they will use this against us.
I'm negotiating against us, but listen, you can get us for a couple $1,000s in unlimited beer. I know Gordo would sign up for that right away.
I'd love a Tecate sponsor.
Gordo's the dreamer of the bunch. I'm the realist. That's what I do. But once we prove ourselves, to the moon, boys.
All right.
Then it's $6 million. Then it's $6 million a year. After that, once we prove ourselves, we gotta get some game reps.
We do.
That number was staggering. I don't. Who's the other one? What's the chick's name? She does the Call Her Daddy podcast. She just signed for $40 million a year.
No way.
Yeah.
So we're on to something? We're on to something
crazy numbers. I don't know if we're on to anything, but we're here. We are here, which is good. We're living. I want to open, Dax. You got to see one of the hottest teams in the league in the LA Galaxy this past weekend.
He started. I watched him.
Started.
Watched my boy.
Which DP, and this is maybe a loaded question for you, but I want you to be honest.
Sure.
Which DP impressed you more, Miranchuk or Royce?
This
is not fair.
Yeah,
a goal and an assist in 10 minutes?
Yeah, I would say that.
This is fair. Listen, this is going to be the hard-hitting questions that you're going to have to answer here pretty soon.
I would say that Royce obviously produced and was
right.
very impressive. Anytime you get subbed into a game and you score a goal and get an assist and your team wins 2-0, it's going to be hard to say that you didn't have a big effect on the game. So look, if he was the man of the match, I think it's fair to say he had a bigger effect on the game. But what I will say is that
on the game, but I'm asking your trained eye. You got to watch these two dudes on the field right next to you. Like what did you see?
And it's one of those, this is an easy answer because there's no wrong answer. It doesn't mean the other guy's crap.
Well, this is what I'll say about it is that it looks to me like Royce had an instant connection with the other high quality top level players on the LA Galaxy right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Alexi, we're going to need a little bit more time because he sees the game at such a high level. And it looked to me like he came in, he was adjusting to the speed of play, and he was struggling to find those same connections with our attacking players. And so, look, to pivot off of your analysis of us seeing one of the hottest teams in the East or in the West, the Galaxy were fantastic. And for 60 minutes, one of the best teams in the league, in my opinion, now, we were right in the game. They had a lot of possession, but it was a possession with not a lot of purpose. And so then they made a few substitutions and they totally flipped the game on its head. Okay. And so, look, with Royce and with the Galaxy, to me, you have a top 3 level in MLS, a top 3 team in terms of attacking firepower and attacking talent. And that is proven in the goals scored. With Atlanta right now, look, we're struggling to score a little bit. And so Alexi's going to come in and he's going to make things better. You can see in his technical ability, his left foot is magic. Okay. His left foot is fantastic. And I'll tell you, he reminds me a lot of, and I was on with the MLS 360 guys and their crew before the game. And he reminds me a lot of like a younger Sasha Question. He's tall, he's lanky, he's got a great motor. He wants to get other people involved. He's technically unbelievable. The ball is glued to his foot. It's on a string, right? Now, is he going to be able to put up the same numbers that some of these other high-level DPs put up? I don't know yet right now with our team, right? Because the way that we attack, I think, is a little bit incomplete still. And we have to be able to punish teams. In the first half, if you watch that game, we had 3 or 4 opportunities in transition where we scored 2 goals. 2 of them were offside they were the right calls. And then we had 2 or 3 other opportunities where if we're a little bit sharper, a little bit cleaner, if our decision-making is a little better, we actually go into halftime 1-0 up, maybe 2-1 up, right? The Galaxy didn't really have that many dangerous chances, okay? So, look, I think they're both going to be fantastic. Of course, I'd be an idiot and a hypocrite if I said Royce didn't start the season better and start his campaign better with a goal and an assist. But I'm telling you guys, Miranchuk is going to be a big difference maker.
That's the kind of political answer that is going to get you places and get us to that $2 million a year. That's what I needed to hear.
Gordo,
Dax.
Listen, Gordo watched the same game I did. If he has a different opinion on both of those guys, please let me hear it, because Miranchuk, not only did he create a couple good advantages for us, he also hit the crossbar. He almost put one in the top corner.
Dude, his shake to his left to then put that on the back post on the crossbar. You can see like he can create that separation for himself. But I agree. I think his presence was disjointed, which is also, I mean, it's a brand new game. It's tough.
Before Gordo
goes,
Marco
Royce.
Before Gordo goes, let me put things in perspective. When I looked after I got subbed out of the game and I looked at the Galaxy midfield, let's look at the 5 across the midfield. You had Paintsill on the left, Pooch, Brugman, Royce, Peck. That was their midfield five.
Yep.
I would hazard a guess that you could sell that midfield five anywhere in the world right now. Maybe not Royce, because obviously he's a little bit older, but in terms of overall quality and valuation, that's a midfield worth $50 to $60 million, in my opinion. Pretty easily. Okay. So I think you're talking about a Galaxy team who is built to win right now. Like in this moment, they went all in. They pushed their chips all in. They have already one of the best midfielders in the league in Pooch. They have Paintsel and Peck who are doing numbers. They have like 10 goals, 10 assists each. So let's make sure that we have a little perspective here, right? Like
totally. Miranchuk's coming into an Atlanta roster that's not in a great space from a starting 11 from the attacking.
I just think it's incomplete. I just think it's not as well rounded as the Galaxy are right now. And look, they the last 30 minutes of the game they showed their quality, and that was the difference.
I think what I saw, which I would love to hear from you, Gordo, on, was the Galaxy's attacking movement was next level. The way that their interchange moves and creates imbalance across the back line for Atlanta, I thought really just was a different tier, in my opinion. What did you see, Gordo, from the Galaxy?
Yeah, so, I mean, listen, like I was thinking about this a lot when I was watching the game. And the way that they were possessing the ball and the interchanging and how much quality they have was exciting to me, because we clearly looked like the better team. We clearly looked like we had more quality. However, I started to think, and exactly what Dax said was a great, like Dax sees the game really well. Obviously, a great breakdown of the game. And that's what I started to see as I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, I feel like we have the ball. Everybody looks nice. Everybody wants to share the ball, but we weren't being dangerous. And it becomes the fact, and they countered, and they scored 2 goals, just like Dak said. And that's when I was like, okay, so now we're going to be one of these teams that is playing like Man City or the old Barcelona, where everybody's just going to sit back. They're going to stack 8, and they're going to look to counter. And what's still our weakness? Okay. I think our backline's gotten better. I like the young kid that was in, you had some young legs. However, we were exposed. And if you're pushing all those numbers forward for a counter, I just feel like that it just smells trouble for me. It smells trouble in big games and playoff games for me. I would like to be a little bit more dynamic going forward. Ricky's obviously chopping, he's going to chop right down this, he's going to split the Red Sea. He's going to go through about anybody that he goes up against. But, I just like to be a little bit more dynamic, I guess. And that's it. So I think there's a little bit of trouble, but there's a lot of talent on that field.
To your point, Gordo, I was thinking about this a little bit after the game, because I have nothing but compliments for how the Galaxy played. But like you said, Joveljic, their striker, the main guy, I think he's coming back from injury. So that's why in the first half
he's been out.
They were playing with Paintsel up top. Painsel's not a striker. So they weren't dangerous because they had no one to occupy our center backs. They kept
and he doesn't stretch the field the way that Joveljic does.
And we were deep.
Which is weird.
They pushed us back with their possession. But let me also say one thing. When this team is up and running at full strength, and let's just call a spade, Vanny has to find a way to get Royce on the field from the beginning, and he will when he's fit. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that team looks like with a fully fit attacking team, because the balance is so important. The reason why they could play like that was because they have Marky Delgado and Cerrillo to balance out all that attacking talent. You put their defenders on an island. If you throw Puig and Royce in the midfield with 1-6, you're asking for trouble. You got a lot of
Fagundes comes off the field and Royce goes on.
Okay. Now, what do you do in the midfield? Who do you see? Royce as a winger.
Royce is a winger.
Okay. Where do you play Paintsel?
No, Royce isn't a winger. Royce is an inverted winger. I think Royce still stays in the center of the park.
Okay. He'd have to play. Royce would have to play the 10, and Ricky would have to play the 8. And so
there you go. So you're putting
Ricky's got to move deeper.
You're putting let's
Delgado's out further. Is what that means. Delgado and
Cerrillo.
And
Yeah, Surreal are out.
so you have Royce, Pooj, Paintsel, Peck, and
Bruges.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's a fair question. I also think
it's
that
an embarrassment of riches for Vanny, but if he doesn't get the
you're in a
balance right,
luxury though, because like look,
you're right. And I was thinking that the whole time too, Dax, the whole time.
Think about this. Think if you're Vanny, how luxurious that would be to head into let's just use the playoffs, and to have whatever team they're up against be completely clueless about how you're going to line up, and with the attacking options that you have, and then to be able to completely flip the game on its head and bring in not one, two really kind of game-changing attackers to completely change your formation. I mean, that's special. I think, Gordo, I agree with you that the back line's still not good enough the way that they're playing right now. I personally love Jalen Neal. I think he's a phenomenal talent moving forward. But I also think that you have to keep Delgado and Surreal on the field because there has to be protection there.
Yes.
I agree about Delgado. Excuse me. I agree about Delgado, but I don't necessarily agree with you. Although their connection with each other is pretty special, and they do keep great possession. But I think Surreal is you need, to Dax's point, if you're going to have all these guys, and we kind of saw it, and he's kind of the same, dude. Like, he's a great possession player, but I see no teeth out of him, and I think you got to have some teeth to protect a little bit of the back line, and Bruges is known to be a little bit better at that. And so you got to have a stay-at-home six if you're going to have all these weapons up front, which are fantastic. I'm really pleased of what we have to offer, but it's you have to get the balance right, to Dax's point.
I think that's all. Those are good points about the Galaxy. Let me add one more thing about Atlanta United, because we're ending this on a very positive Atlanta United note. A Johnny Fortune is a young central midfielder. He's played as an 8, as a 6 sometimes this year. He kind of played as like a pseudo 8/10 against the Galaxy. He was immense. He was fantastic. It was the best I've seen him play in an Atlanta United shirt. He played very well against St. Louis on the road as well. But he was the catalyst for a lot of the good things that we did in that first half. He drove the team forward. He was not a number 10 in, let's say, like a traditional sense, but in transition, he killed the Galaxy. He was excellent. He ran at their back line relentlessly. He was the one that was driving us forward to help break them down in transition with the ball at his feet. And he's young. He's 21. He's a full Trinidad and Tobago international. And I got to say, I've trained with him for the entire season. And I was like, I'm not really sure what his best position is. Is he a 6? Is he an 8? Is he a 10? He's just one of those throwback midfielders that can do it all. And so I want to give a shout out to Jay, because he was absolutely fantastic, and he's got a very bright future ahead of him. We'll see what position he ends up playing in the future, but he was brilliant in the game against the Galaxy, and he deserved more. He deserved a goal or an assist. All
right, so you just saw them, Dax. Miami smacked Cincinnati in Miami. But I think that there was also some clear separation in my mind from a Cincinnati team that's been holding on in a lot of ways. Still really good, but not clear cut. I wrote out my tiers of where we're at. 4, 7, 9, top 9 teams. Do you have the Galaxy in the top tier? I'll give you mine. I'll give you mine. I have Miami, LA Galaxy, LAFC, and Columbus. That's my tier 1 group.
Oh, 4 teams.
4 I have 9 total teams. Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Actual contenders.
Cincinnati needs to be in that group.
You put Cincinnati in tier 1?
Let
Cincinnati's in my tier 2. I have tier 2.
He's tier 1. Let Lucho Acosta get healthy and fit again. He didn't play in Leagues Cup. He barely played in Leagues Cup, and then he didn't start against Miami, and he's kind of dealing with a little bit of fitness issue. Cincinnati with a fully fit Lucho Acosta is tier 1, in my opinion.
I don't know, man. I don't know if their back line is good enough to be a tier 1. I think that they're dangerous all over the place, but that still worries me.
You don't think that Cincy's back line's better than the Galaxy?
No, I do, but I think that Galaxy's
Gordo.
attack is going to be much better than Cincinnati's.
With the Costa.
I think their attacks are pretty.
They're different, but probably
different, but they're similar.
Yeah. I mean,
listen.
I just don't think that's a compelling argument.
I'll say a lot here. I'll say a lot
keeping
here.
them out of your top tier if Galaxy are in there with arguably, So who are your teams again? Run me back.
My tier 1 is Miami, LA Galaxy, LAFC, Columbus. That's my tier 1. So if that's 1A, Cincy would probably it's probably a stretch to put them in tier 2, but I think that they're slightly below that tier. Because of the things that we've talked about, because of the injuries, because I still don't really think that they're like a fully just gelled lineup. And I think that if I'm lining up against the Galaxy strictly in the playoffs, if I'm lining up against the Galaxy, I'm more intimidated on how to bottle up all of their options going forward than I am about how to defend against Lucho Acosta, who is, for me, the metronome of Cincinnati's team. And that's not to say that Lucho couldn't rip us apart, whatever team I'm playing on, because he can. And he can do it against anybody. But if to game plan against Cincy, I think would be easier than with what the Galaxy can hurt you with.
So I think, as Taylor Twellman would put it, my rebuttal to you, Gargs, is this. That's my problem with the Galaxy right now, because I agree with you, and I could easily agree with your top tier, easily. However, in a playoff game where things get tight, I might take Cincinnati over the Galaxy right now, just because Acosta is
they're a team.
Just because look, Acosta is we are going to be exposed, and we have been exposed. And if no disrespect to Atlanta, but honestly speaking, if Atlanta had Acosta going the other way, he would have scored 2 or 3 goals. I feel like in loss of possession, you give Acosta, against the run of play, you give him those opportunities. He's either finding somebody in a slot or he's scoring a goal. And that's why this Galaxy team worries me. I'm happy where we're at, but they worry me in a playoff situation where things are really tight.
Greg and his staff still have 9 games to figure this out.
Right now. We're talking right now. Right.
Yeah.
And that would be my worry, in that, to Dax's point, I could see, it's tight, right? If you're in a top 4 or top 5, then you're all in good company. However, I could flip flop those two. I think Columbus, obviously winning Leagues Cup and winning the MLS Cup, they're clearly in, right? They're right there. And LAFC, I don't know, man. We got to talk about them.
They're on the top
we get
list.
to LAFC.
Yeah, before we get there,
and how they hold on. Let me finish, and how they can't win the big one. I hope we talk about that. And then your other team, Miami. Obviously, Suarez is scoring goals. Did the other night, and then you get Messi back. You can't argue against that too. But the Galaxy Cincinnati thing is really interesting to me when it gets into a playoff format, and that's my worry for the Galaxy.
All right, so then here's where my head's at. I'm buying, similar to you, I'm buying the Galaxy's potential over the next 8 games to figure out what this is going to look like. That's going to put them in that.
And that's
top
fair
tier.
enough.
And
they deserve it. They deserve it.
I'm more concerned about how Cincinnati approaches the postseason. Dax, what do you got?
In my opinion, there's 5 teams in the tier 1 that are elite this year.
So you're shifting Cincy up there?
But yes, but they're all flawed. It's not fair for you to sit there and be like, well, I don't trust Cincinnati's backline, and then look at the Galaxy and Miami and be like, bam, I trust their backlines, but they're in tier 1. All 3 of those backlines have question marks for me. All 3 of them. Elite,
I don't disagree with that.
Elite attacks.
But with that being said, he's saying that he trusts the other 2 attacks more than Cincy.
Lucho Acosta is the best playmaker in MLS when he's fit. There's no argument to be had there. He's gonna be the 3rd or 4th player in MLS history to get to 20 assists in a season.
Agreed.
And he scores goals, and he still scores goals. So
I agree.
They're still flawed. Columbus, should be the favorite because they're the best team in the league and they're the best coach team in the league. But their flaw is that they're crap on set pieces, and they're
my 1B.
They seemingly want to give teams goals almost religiously. They're so married to what they want to do playing out of the back. I think in Leagues Cup, they literally lost possession on top of their box 3 games in a row for the other team to score. And
they don't care.
I know
it doesn't seem like they care.
They're good enough because they're good enough. They're good enough to recover from it. Their attacking players are good enough to score 2-3 goals a game. But I'm just saying, in a one-off playoff game where the stakes are a little bit higher, look, they've been there before. But I just don't trust them on set pieces, and I don't necessarily trust them not to make a catastrophic mistake that leads to a goal. And then
but I mean, here's the problem though, Dax. Like, these Leagues Cup games are one-off playoff games, and they just blitzed through it and won.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but I still think it's a trend, and I think it's a problem. And I think if they can lose to Atlanta, a team who, by all accounts, we've been struggling this year, if they can lose to Atlanta because we scored 2 set pieces and we were perennially dangerous against them on set pieces, that can be a big problem for them. They're not the biggest team in the world, and if you come up against a team that has a couple studs in the air, if the other team plays for set pieces and you concede a few on set pieces, then you could be in trouble. I just think it's an issue. So we'll see if they sort that out.
It's not that they don't care. It's that they don't panic, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because they're paying attention to it. They haven't gotten better necessarily, but to see a team not panic is great.
And so then the 5th team in the elite tier,
and that's the coach, right? I mean, that's Nancy.
Yes.
The 5th team in the elite
100%.
tier is LAFC, who, if I look at LAFC compared to these other elite teams, I'm thinking in my head, they're probably the best team defensively out of the top 5, in my opinion. And you look at their attack, and it's like they have a really balanced midfield and a really dangerous attack. So then it gets to the question Gordo was asking. Why can they not win the big game? Since MLS Cup 2022, was it? They haven't been able to win a big game. And that's just that's a fact. They've lost multiple finals, and to be honest, they don't want to see the Crew in the final. I don't know if
we need Statman Jack here. Who'd they lose after 2022 season?
Who?
Like, in terms of players?
LAFC.
I can't. I don't know off the top of my head.
I know. We're gonna have to.
You guys can talk this through.
Rossi.
Huh?
And he's on Columbus.
And he's from Columbus.
Yeah, but I don't know if Rossi. I don't know.
That's not your mentality.
I don't know
guy.
if Rossi was there in 22.
I'm not saying mentality, but you said who did they lose? And
thinking like I don't feel like their complexion changed all that much. Obviously, Vela changed a bit.
Okay, so Vela.
Yeah, but he played in 23. He just wasn't the man.
Okay.
He was still there.
Helen Acosta.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the Kellen Acosta. Yeah, that's a big one. That's an engine in there and a mentality guy. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. To be honest, my takeaway from that game, from Leagues Cup final, was that LAFC actually could beat Columbus.
They've been able to beat everybody, but they don't.
I know. But I going here. Let me rewind that. My thinking heading into that game was that LAFC was going to get smoked, and then I watched the game and I was like, all right, they can hurt Columbus.
Yeah,
I think that they. I mean, this
why do you think that? Because
Columbus scored
in Columbus.
Yeah, because it was in Columbus, and because I have a high opinion of Columbus. I don't have as high of opinion of LAFC because of the things that you guys just mentioned. But to be fair, to your point, like, they are a well-constructed side. I think very highly of Steve Cherundolo, and I do think that they're in my top tier. So they're in my tier 1.
So to answer your question, Dan, they lost. Since MLS Cup in 2022, the lineup, Maxime Crepeau. They replaced him with Hugo Lloris, which, I got to be honest, guys, that second goal,
that was bad.
Game winner.
That's a goalkeeper mistake.
And I know goalkeepers. If I were to talk to Brad Guzan right now, he would say
he'd lose his mind for telling.
He would say, "Oh, he can't move. The guy's running across goal." I would say, "Hey, buddy, it's pretty obvious that Aaron Long is not going to let the striker get to the ball. Like, he is clearly shielding him to the point where, like, just follow the path of the ball and you're going to save it." I don't
And
know.
Lloris got his hand to the ball too.
Lloris for me, man, he's a little bit of a question mark. So, anyways, they lost Diego Palacios, absolutely fantastic fullback.
Yep.
And they replaced him with a good fullback. But if you're playing Hollingshead on the left, Hollingshead's probably more comfortable on the right. Whatever. Kellen Acosta, Jose Cifuentes, which
Cifuentes, yeah,
good player.
I liked him.
Vela, of course, is a big loss, but for me, the bigger one is Arango. Of course, Chicho Arango was.
That's a mentality guy. That's
a big mentality guy. And look, Giroud. Let's be honest, Giroud is going to score goals in MLS for sure, and he's fantastic. But he's a much different player. So,
did you put a D on the end of Giroud?
I said Giroud.
Giroud with a D.
What you can watch the replay. Giroud. Doesn't matter. You know who I was talking about.
It doesn't matter. All right, so let me give you my tier 2. Tier 2 is Cincy, Charlotte, Seattle. Tier 3, Colorado, RSL. RSL ahead of Colorado.
The Mountain Cup.
The Rocky Mountain Cup is my tier 3. Anybody else that you think is worthwhile?
You're off. Who's your tier 2? Go back. I don't.
Cincinnati, Charlotte, Seattle. That's my next contender.
You're over Philly,
dude.
You picked them to win the Leagues Cup.
Philly, I did. Philly lost Jose Martinez, and I'm
over Philly. They lost.
And that was your gut. That was your.
That was my caveat. That was me on the fence. If they lose Martinez, I'm out. Which
when the news had already been reported, he's out.
Right. Yeah. No, I said if he finishes Leagues Cup. I think you need to have. I personally think you need to have the New York teams in tier 3.
Both of them.
Both of them. I think Red Bull.
What's the Red Bulls done?
They're first of all, they're in 4th in the East right now, and they just went to Charlotte. You're one of your teams in tier 2 and should have beat them on the road.
Yeah, but they tied 1-1. Yeah,
they should have won.
I don't like.
Why do you got Charlotte up there? So all these rumors that we were talking about, did they sign any of them?
Ream.
They signed. Yeah.
They signed Ream.
Another guy. They signed another.
No, they signed another DP too.
A winger, I think. Pep Bile. I don't know who he is. You have the New York teams are
listen, Charlotte's my dark horse. Like, hey, if they ended up there, it'd be like a little bit of a Cinderella, but they've had a good enough year where you can make an argument where, okay, I get it.
The New York team should be in tier 3. And because they're both flawed teams, but I think NYCFC, if they can get a little consistency out of the number 9 position, which I think one of their 9s just scored 2 goals on the weekend, Alonso Martinez. I still think NYCFC has a lot of potential, and they can be a little bit of a dark horse. Red Bull, I think Red Bull is always going to be a tough team to play against because of how they play, but they don't have a striker, so they don't have a striker scoring goals. That's why they're tier 3, but they're 4th in the East. So I don't.
But Dex, Red Bull's never going to win. They're never going to win ever.
Charlotte's going to win.
Maybe.
I mean,
Red Bull will never win because of the way they play. They're never going to win.
Okay, so that doesn't mean you don't put them in the tier where they're supposed.
I don't need to because I know they won't win.
Okay, I disagree.
I disagree with that. If they're not going to win, why are we putting them in the race?
That's what I said. That's why they're not in the race.
I wasn't talking to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They're not.
I was backing you up. So, take that back, bro.
All right. So, Gordo,
don't come at me like that.
Every team that Gargs just mentioned, you think has a chance to win.
Well, you can't say that out loud, but you actually said it out loud. You said, "I know they're not going to win, but he should still be in there." You got to lie about it.
Listen, just because they don't have a chance to win doesn't mean they shouldn't be in the tier.
Colorado's not going to win either.
Any team that has a chance, any team that makes the playoffs has a chance to win. Okay, let's just put
that's true. This is
you're doing tiers. Why are you doing tiers if none of these teams have a chance to win? Other than the tier 1 teams should be the only teams theoretically.
I didn't say that my tiers don't have a chance to win. Gordo said that.
No, okay. I didn't. Go back.
I think the odds are less likely for tier 3 to win MLS Cup.
Correct. I think both New York teams. I think they should.
All right, so you're throwing New York in tier 3. Gordo, are you any other teams in there for you?
have a list in front of me, and I can't remember. No.
You can't remember who plays in the league. That's fair.
And I haven't seen. I don't watch Eastern Conference soccer. I think it's garbage. Always have thought it was garbage. So I haven't seen.
It was really bad when he was on Chicago, finishing his career at 28. That was the worst it was.
Did Chicago get in there?
He can't get his brain past that year. What season was that?
My last year,
2018.
You always need a year to be like, yep, this is definitely it. And Chicago, Colorado,
and a year in Bridgeview will do that to you.
Those are where players go to die. And I'm just glad it was at the end of my career.
So before we move on, is Columbus the best team in the league, Dax?
Yep.
Okay. I disagree.
I've already talked about Columbus.
You have. I just wanted a yes or no. Gordo, is Columbus the best team in the league?
Yes, clearly.
They're not going to win the Shield. Miami's going to win the Shield. And Miami's going to do it without Messi for, what, 40% of the season? 50% of the season? And they're going to get him back? And you're still telling me that Columbus is the best team in the league?
I think that, yes. If you give Columbus... If Columbus goes out in the CONCACAF Champions Cup where Miami goes out and they don't have that run all the way to the final, eating away at their roster and the points they could potentially win, I think that they're in it for the Shield as well.
1,000%. And listen, you can't say they're not the best team in the league. You can't say they're going to have a tougher road moving forward from this point. They're going to have a tougher road because they went longer. Their legs are more tired, but they won a trophy. By the way, back-to-back trophies.
And they're in another final in a month.
And exactly. And you're going to say that they're not the best?
They're in the one with Mexico, the Campeones Cup.
So you're probably right, Gargs, but I don't think that makes them the best team in the league. I think Columbus is still reigning champs.
As a Supporter Shield truther, because I did put a lot of value in the Supporter Shields that I won.
You have to, because you have won a championship.
Too. But I never won the Supporter Shield. Let
me say it with one caveat, because to your point, Dan, the Supporter Shield winner is technically the best team in the league, but you can't say that anymore because you don't play every team.
I wouldn't say that. I personally would not say that the Supporter Shield winner is the best team in the league, but I do place a lot of emphasis.
You just used that in your argument.
No, yeah. I know. I didn't use that to qualify that Miami is the best team in the league. I just said they're going to win the Supporter Shield, which I do value. I'm saying I value.
Okay, I value it too, but not as much as I used to. The Supporter Shield had, I think, very significant value when you played every team in the league at least once. And I know it wasn't home and away.
It's an unbalanced schedule.
It was a little bit unbalanced, but you had to do it that way. And I still think that was when it meant the most. Now, because you don't play every team in the league at least one time, it takes, and you can't because there's too many teams now. But so look, I still think the Supporter Shield is a very valuable trophy, but I don't put as much stock into it as I used to.
Do you have any idea of how many teams you miss out on per season playing from the other conference, obviously?
I think 3 or 4, something
I was going to say you play half from the other conference, but I'm not positive.
I think it's a little bit more than that.
It's a big deal.
Let me see. We've played this
year. It's unbalanced.
We've played the Galaxy. We've played LAFC. We've played Salt Lake. We have played Houston. We have played Minnesota. We have played St. Louis. It might be more. It might be closer to 6.
That you miss.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Which is half, isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
a little less
not quite half. Yeah, a little less than half. Yeah, that is a big deal. Does anybody catch Miami for a Supporter Shield? So I think that Columbus has a bunch of games in hand, right? So if they win their games in hand, they're still 3 or 4 points back, which is not.
Miami's going to win the Shield.
So let me ask you this. Does this say more about Tata or does this say more about the players on Miami?
Chris Henderson, man. How they are able.
No,
that wasn't one of the.
Chris Henderson's the guy who put that team together.
Let me go. Go ahead, Dax.
How they're able to.
So you're going players. You're going players.
Yes. how they're able to replace injured players one after the other, seemingly important players, is mind-blowing. It feels like they're cheating, when even though I know they're not, because the MLS has credit.
They have been. Hey, once a cheater, always a cheater, Dad.
Bro, I don't understand how they're able to like a center back goes down, they replace him with a River Plate or Boca Juniors starter. A midfielder goes down, they replace him with a full Paraguayan international in Rojas. Like,
well, here's the deal, Dax. Miami has the Galaxy effect on it right now. You can go and get any player, and you want to say, okay, we'll come and play with Miami and play with Messi. Here you go. You got Messi, best player in the world. You got Henderson, who should be the sporting executive of the year. Yep. And you also have, in my opinion, the best coach in the league, Tata Martino.
No.
And then you have great players.
Stan, you've been drinking?
You're going to argue that? Why? Just because Nancy wins? Tata Martino's the best.
Yes.
He's the best coach in the league. Look at what he's done.
Just because the guy wins everything?
Just because he wins everything, you're saying he's the best?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, Nancy's the best coach in the league right now. If you polled,
Tata for me.
I think if you polled every GM and every anonymous poll, every GM and every executive, who is the best coach in MLS right now? 90% of people would say Wilfred Nancy.
I'm in the 10% then. I think Nancy's phenomenal. And I would take him to be my head coach any day of the week, but not if Tata Martino's available.
Do you share a few cappuccinos with Tata here in Atlanta when you guys were together? You got a little soft spot for him?
Dude, I think he's fantastic.
Okay, what happened to Miami when a fully fit Miami team was playing against plucky old Atlanta United with 37-year-old Dax McCarty in the midfield, and Atlanta went down there and beat them 3-1?
Hey, man, you don't win all your games.
Okay, here we go. You don't win all your games.
Dude, look at what he's done without Messi. The team's constructed around Messi, and he's still going to win the Supporters' Shield.
Because without Messi, they're still a top 3 roster in MLS.
I still haven't even gone through that. Like, I haven't really dived into any of the details here, but I know I have watched along, and just like you said, like, you're taking injury here, center back out here, Messi's gone here, you're losing your attacker, you're selling this guy, you're moving this guy, and it's still the train just keeps on going. That's the coach, man.
Yes, but also because they keep replacing all of these players with full international players.
Again, sporting executive of the year, Chris Henderson. You can bring in great players. You still have to make them work on the field.
Here's the only argument I think you have for
which both of them do very well. They both do that very well.
I think Tata Martino is a great coach. I'm not taking anything away from him. I see your argument. I just disagree with it. He's a great coach. The problem is the players that he is coaching right now, by and large, are all full internationals. The only players that you can look at and say, oh, he's actually made them better, maybe Yannick Bright, the young central midfielder who's come in and done extremely well for Miami, and who, like we talked about.
How about Ben Kramaski? What's he, 18?
Well, because you interrupt every time me and Gordo are trying to talk, I was going to name Kramaski. I was going to name Aviles, okay? 3 or 4 players that have come in who aren't like fully established internationals that Tata's made better. With Nancy, you can literally say he has made 10 to 12 players on Columbus who no one had even really heard of. Better players, like significantly better. You're not going to say that like he didn't make.
He's not making their talent. He's given them a great system, and he has a great system.
Gordo, hey, I got news for you, buddy. You know what coaches are supposed to do? They're supposed to make players better in the system that they play.
Okay, just because Tata has older established players doesn't mean he doesn't have a great system to fit them. Those guys, hold on.
You guys see the Jim Curtin
Those
quote?
guys, the older guys,
Jim Curtin's quote? Okay.
The older guys are much more difficult to make into a great team than the young kids that'll do anything that you say and to fit into your system. Bruce Arena couldn't do it with the Galaxy when we had a ton of world-class talent, older guys, and Tata's been able to do it. And that's why I asked this question. And I think if you guys even want to ask me what I think, go ahead, Dan, ask me what I think.
What do you think, Gordo?
Hey, well, funny you ask, because what I think is that coming from where Miami was at versus where Columbus was at 3 years ago, okay, coming into the 2023 season,
Yep.
I think Tata deserves more credit than Wilbur.
Thank you.
Than Wilbur, because they were at the bottom of the bottom.
Like that.
What's his name? Wilfred.
Dude, Columbus got Tim
bottom of the league. The bottom of the league.
The bottom.
And now they're at the top. And
with sanctions. The bottom with sanctions. And granted, they got Messi and Busquets.
That's a good pickup. That's a good pickup.
Who has a better roster, Miami or Columbus?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Who has a better roster?
Miami.
You think Miami does?
Miami has more talent.
They got older dudes, man. They got guys.
Take Messi off the roster.
Why should we take Messi off the roster?
Because he's not playing and they're winning a Supporters Shield. So take Messi off the roster.
He hasn't played 7 games. They have more talent.
They have 5 guys that are walking off the field straight into a retirement community. Like in a wheelchair. Like Suarez will never be able to walk again. These guys.
He certainly
Dude,
won't.
Columbus has got the best striker in the league, and we're not addressing that. Like we're not acknowledging that you have a he's got a game changer, like the striker.
I've always acknowledged that. He's fantastic.
You did not.
I've said Cucho. We've talked about the best players in the league, and Cucho is consistently always brought up as one of them, for sure.
Well, my point is you're not acknowledging the fact that Nancy is working with the best striker in the league.
Correct. I am acknowledging that.
Diego Rossi?
Take Rossi and Cucho.
Pretty nice. Nagby.
Rossi, Cucho, and Nagby out of that team, and he has made every single one of those players better. Amundsen was surplus to requirements in NYCFC. He came into Columbus. He looks like one of the best center backs in the league. Camacho couldn't win a game in Montreal. Nancy brings.
That doesn't mean these guys are bad players, though.
They were bad coaches.
I've never said any of these guys are bad players. I'm telling you, Nancy.
Yeah, you're. That's what you did say. You're saying this roster is nowhere near Miami. I completely disagree with that.
Near. I said Miami has a better roster overall, more talent. And I'm not saying they're bad players. I'm saying that the way that Nancy coaches them and the system that they play, I don't think a lot of these other players, other than Cucho, Rossi, and Nagby, could go to a different team and play at the same high level. That's my point. That's what I'm saying.
I think they're two very different case studies.
Russell Rowe, Mo Farsi, you guys are acting like we're talking about these huge stars and internationals that Miami has. We're not. We're talking about guys in relative obscurity that, by the way, not a lot of other MLS teams would probably.
Guys that are coming into the prime of their careers versus guys that are walking into a retirement home.
Correct. But everyone would argue that those guys are still Champions League winners, World Cup winners. Like, let's be honest. The only guy you have an argument about is the fact that guy can still run around is a miracle.
He can't run around. He can barely move, and he's still bagging goals.
But that's the only reason I'm choosing. This is 1A, 1B conversation. It's a tough one to because Wilfred is a brilliant coach, and everybody knows it. However, the only reason I ask that question is because I think he has a tougher task with the older players who are stuck in their ways, don't always want to run, don't always want to do the dirty work, and you got to put them and have a balance. Like we're saying that Greg Vanney that's going to be his toughest. This is when you find out what a coach is or isn't. When you have an abundance of talent, and you have to find the best combination of players that will win you games. And this is what, in my opinion, was Greg Berhalter's failure with the U.S. team that we've talked about. Okay, is finding a balance within a multitude of talent at your disposal.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the only reason. I think Tata has proven time and time again what he did with Atlanta. He comes in, he's a very, very smart coach, and he knows how to build a balanced team that's going to win. And so that's why I'm giving him the slight edge. Doesn't mean that I don't think that what And we talked about this, and Wilfred, he designed the modern game in the MLS. He did. Everybody's trying to now figure out how he did this, and they're trying to emulate it, right? So there's a lot to be said for that.
What I'll say is I think Tata is the only coach with MLS experience that could have come into Miami and been able to do what he's done with that group. Because, yeah, you guys have a bunch of older players who are all, by and large, South American, who are set in their ways, who you need a coach who's able to manage those egos and those personalities. Tata is probably the only guy that could do that.
For sure.
My point is that what Wilfred Nancy is doing with Columbus is nothing short of incredible. And I look at Miami and I think, okay, with the talent that they have and the coach that they have, if they don't win multiple MLS Cups before Messi's done, then that's a failure. Would that be a fair statement? Would you guys agree with that? Because then okay, so Tata doesn't have to win MLS Cup to still keep the moniker of best coach in the league.
No, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't think that if Miami doesn't win multiple MLS Cups, is it a failure? I wouldn't characterize it as a failure.
Okay, well, what would need to happen for you to characterize it as a success with the best coach in the league and the best
as a success?
Yeah.
Well, they have to win. They have to win a trophy.
They won a trophy last year. I think that they are a success already. They're going to win the Supporter Shield. That's another trophy this year. I think that they are a success. I'm actually impressed. I am very impressed by what Tata Martino has done in a short amount of time with a collection of 18-year-olds and world superstars and everybody in between, and the product that he is putting out on the field. I'm impressed. I am impressed. That doesn't discredit.
We're not saying he's I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I just told you he's one of the best coaches in the league. I just think that
he's the best coach in the league.
I think I'm more in line with what Nancy's doing is a little bit more impressive.
Yeah, I mean they both have good arguments.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's finish on this. Dax, whose swing was better, mine or Gordo's? On hole, what hole was that? 14. So we tried to do closest to the pin, and Gordo shanked this like 25 yards past the hole to the left, and then I went up and I left it 25 yards short to the right, and we had already gone through.
Gargs, your swing is gross.
Ew, come on, dude. That's not very nice.
I would compare your swing just slightly above Barkley.
Hey,
I'll tell you what, then. It's a good thing you didn't see it 2 years ago, because it was horrific.
Do you remember the old golf, like the goofy guy who used to have short legs, and he would have like his
dwarf on golf.
Dwarf on golf. You
I don't remember.
Dwarf on golf, dude. Your torso is so long and you bend over so far.
I gotta get closer to the ball. What do you want?
So I'm assuming Gordo won overall. He smoked you overall.
Yes.
Yes, he did beat me. Yes.
Listen, to Gargs' credit, okay, Gargs sent me a video last year, and he said, and I love this. He's like, "What am I doing wrong?" We should post this, like your old swing. We should. It was fair. Like, dude, and I'm going at him. I'm like, what are you doing? You're an athlete. Like, pretend to be one for 1 second. And that was 1 year ago. And Gargs was smashing his drive straight every time. Like, most improved player, he just needs to play a little bit more golf for his short game. But like, dude, I'm not joking. The most improved golfer in 1 year that I've seen. And I'm not going to give him credit. Every time he hit it, I was surprised.
Just wait till you see how much I'm going to improve after retirement.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Dude. Welcome to the club. We're going to have you out next year, Dax. You're the new addition. We had a blast, dude. We had so much fun.
What was this for? What was this? Was this the bet, or was this some sort of event?
Yeah, I paid up on my bet. I've went to Denver.
Somehow I don't believe that. Somehow I don't believe that was the only reason.
I'm sure he paid for my round like he was supposed to, but he should have.
What do you mean? Of course I did. Did you pay for your round?
No, I hit up Kira. I'm still waiting for an invoice from Kira.
Yeah, because I paid for it, you idiot.
I can't believe you guys golfed.
I haven't got an invoice. I wonder why.
You tell Kieran I said hello? Me and him go way back.
No, we saw Nathaniel Ratliff and the Night Sweats at Red Rocks, which was amazing, and golfed during the. I mean, it was a full dad day. It was about as indulgent as you could possibly get as a dad, and I loved every minute. It was unbelievable. I got to see Gordo, Bobby Burling, Kieran O'Brien, Seth Tremblay. We got to play a little golf. We got out on the course, and we played at Rolling Hills Country Club, which I felt like I was putting on a hardwood floor. I've never seen anything like it, and I'm not a golfer. I just started, but it was impossible, dude. It was impossible.
If a member was not there, he would be telling us to putt it 30 feet from the pin, and we're like, "You think?" And he's like, "Yes." And it would somehow, you just put it where, and it would like come all the way. It was ridiculous.
It was crazy, dude. It was also, you'd be 60 feet from the pin, and he would be like, don't even hit it harder than blowing on it. That's how soft you have to touch this. And it would still fly past the hole and off the other side. It was crazy.
That's never seen the greenskeeper that's just taking the piss at that point.
It was very, very difficult, but a great time was had by all, most importantly. So it was a good time. And Gordo did win closest to the pin, but I did take him on the hole because he 3-putted like a jackass.
Dude, lightning. I almost putted it off the green.
He did, and I drained. It was the 115 footer that I drained. So we cut the video, but the video is pretty good. Gordo was not happy about it.
I wasn't, because I thought he like tricked me into thinking that I lost the bet because he won the hole, and I was like,
so who did the push-ups?
What it was until the next day.
We didn't do the push-ups, but I still need to do them. I'll get them. I'll send them out. Hey, Journeyman, it's been a joy. Thanks for jumping on. We will see you out there next time.